Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking a look at this Cub Cadet snowblower that is leaking oil. It consistently leaks even when it just sits there. This engine is used on pretty much every MTD made snowblower out there. So whether yours is Cub Cadet or Troy-Bilt or Craftsman or MTD or Boland's, any of those are going to be, if the engine looks the same, it's going to be the same process. And even many different brands, makes, and models, it's not going to be much different. If yours looks like this, or it's leaking oil when it's just sitting or when it's running, this will get you taken care of. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons as we go along if you enjoy the content. Thank you for watching. The very first thing we want to try to figure out, obviously, is where the oil is coming from. The low-hanging fruit and the easiest to look at are the oil drain tube and where it connects to the engine at the back here. If there's any oil on the bottom of that tube, we will know that that's what needs to be sealed up. There isn't in this case, and sometimes it's much harder said than done when you're trying to locate the leak. The next is the oil fill tube on either side. We want to make sure that none of that is wet. If it's wet from here going down, that's going to tell you that the O-ring here is not sealing. That is completely dry here. If we are seeing oil up in between the fins leaking out onto the block, that's going to tell you have a blown head gasket, and you'll want to address that. It's a little bit different than what we cover here, since that's not the problem. It's all clean up top. This is your other oil fill tube. Some of them will have a tube on either side at the bottom instead, but there should be an O-ring up underneath. If there's not, it could be leaking here and dripping down. Check for that O-ring and see if there's any leaks or anything wet around where the oil fill tube connects to the crankcase cover. Not seeing that in that location. Some of these will have an oil drain on either side as opposed to at the back, depending on exactly what engine it is. But usually it'll come out past the frame on one side so you can drain it. Check those two. And then along where the crankcase cover meets the crankcase. That's a very common place to leak. Here we don't really see anything out of the ordinary or straight off top that would tell us where it's leaking from. We can, if we're seeing, we'll take this cover off, but if we're seeing a bunch of oil at the front where the shaft comes out at, that will tell us that the crankcase gasket is not the problem, but rather the PTO seal, where the shaft comes out, would need replaced. To get the cover off, we have 1 3/8 bolt on either side. Don't try to use a 10mm, you'll strip it out. They're both the same. And then that cover is free. To pull it out, you have to kind of go towards you and kind of at an angle. You can see a little closer here, right where the PTO comes out, the shaft comes out. That is all dry. So PTO seal is not going to be the problem in this case, but it is wet kind of down along the base. Sometimes they're easier than others to point out exactly where they're leaking from. Next, we're just going to take and flip this snowblower up onto its face so we can see the underside. It's not going to hurt anything at all. On the bottom side, we can see there is a bunch of oil that's been coming from somewhere. Normally, you're going to have 4 bolts you're going to have to take off to get this free. Here, it looks like 2 are already missing. Take the other 2 up top off. These are 3/8 bolts, just like the other ones. And then you pull the front, it kind of comes down out of these notches. And then the bottom part kind of comes down enough and then straight up and out. So it sits into these notches at the top and bolts on just with those 4 bolts. Here we are at the bottom. Looks like we got a good amount of buildup from the friction disc on the friction wheel. What we do when it's not real obvious is we're going to use a UV light I'm going to use UV dye and lenses to let us see exactly where the oil leak's coming from. What we'll do is we'll dose the oil according to the directions on here, and then we'll let it run for a little while. You can either let it run or let it sit, depending on when it's leaking. This one was a little better when it was sitting. It wasn't really a thing that happened anymore when it was running. I already did that, and we've already done, let me show you exactly what we found when we did that. Even though you can't see it with the naked eye, it's a lot easier to see with this. Let's see if I can't get this with the glasses. So we look up under here, shine some light. It's evident pretty quickly. Right down here, it's glowing kind of a yellowish, right where that plug is, and on this bolt. I don't see it really anywhere else out of the whole underside, just there. As I'm looking around, nowhere, which is strange. You think, well, where is it coming from? If it's only coming out right in that location at some random plug in the frame. Well, if we go to the other side, we can see it pretty easily too. Still got it tipped up, of course, and this is the plug right here, this black piece that we're seeing on the back side where all the oil is located. Let's see if we come here. Can't really see it on this side. It's not real good. It's not real clear that we can see anything. As we come down to the bottom, right up by the front where the crankcase meets the block, you can see extremely clearly that that is where we're getting the leaking from. Hopefully we can see that on camera. Try to get this to come back some. Got a not a vibration, got a reflection pretty bad right here. Now that gasket is green, but it's glowing all along there. Glowing all along there and in between the base where the motor sits. And it's, again, a real slow leak, so it's very hard to see, but then that channel, it's leaking kind of onto this piece here and going over to where that plug is and dripping down. The crankcase gasket is what's leaking, and that's what'll need replaced to get this back into action. First thing you want to do, just so nothing starts up, unplug your spark plug wire. Be safe. The engine does have to be fully removed to fix the crankcase gasket. On these, what we'll do is we'll remove the keeper first. It's going to be 2 half-inch bolts, same size and length. It's half-inch head to them. And it'll come straight off. Now we want our bolt out of the front, but we can remove that first, the belt, get it just kind of out of the way, hang it to the other side. An impact's going to work best on this 14 millimeter, but you can actually just grab here with a pair of pliers and use whatever you'd like. I like using my right angle for most stuff. A little easier to fit in. Didn't work well. I got it gripping backwards. There we go. As this comes apart, pay attention, because this front piece just kind of comes individually. That's how it goes back on, 2 pieces. We've got another piece, just like that one, and then a collar. And now we're to the back belt. We can roll it off pretty easily. I just grabbed the pull cord and kind of turned it over that way a little bit. That's why you want the spark plug out. You don't want it to start on you. Belt out of the way. And then we can pull the rest of the pulley off. That goes towards the front. I'm just going to mark it. Mark it F for front. This one goes towards the back. It's kind of got that idler a little bit in the way, so I'm going to just push it down as I pull this out. Now we're free. And that one, it really is the same as the other one, so it doesn't matter, but I like to mark them anyway. Makes it easier for me. Now all we have left is one bolt that sits here, and that's what the tensioner for the idler sits against. And then our whole assembly for the chute will come off then. I'm going to move this spring just over and kind of out of the way. And that should be able to, at that point, go all the way back down pretty easily. Got to move the idler arm there first. Easier said than done. Just like such, and then the spring comes down, and now we are out of the way of our bolt. We'll take that off. I did not realize, I think you actually have to take the idler arm and stuff off anyway. Not a 5/8. (11/16) maybe. Three-quarter it is. And that whole thing kind of comes out, and I like to just kind of lay it to the side. Pretty sure I remember that, doing that to it before. Yeah, so the whole thing will kind of pull to the left. I'll see if I can't get a better angle up top. If you take the bolt out here, all you have to do is unscrew it. It'll allow you to remove this from the chute, so it can all just kind of hang to the side when you do that. I like to make sure that it's straight, that you pull the trigger and make sure it's 100% straight before you do that. And that just ensures when you put it back on, you can put it back straight and you don't have to worry about it being uneven. It's a little bit easier to get everything lined up. So this all kind of pulls forward, and then that's free. You can just set it kind of to the side. We'll flip it back up again, which is much easier said than done, especially with these shoes on it that are so slippery. Down at the bottom again, we basically have 4 1/2-inch head bolts that hold the engine on. We're going to get those out. Usually like to start with the 2 right ones. And then I'll get the bottom left one. You can move your gear selector. You'll move that basically into low speed, so it's out of the way. Right now we're in high, we're in 6th gear. Now we can see where the bottom one is. Over here. That's 3 out of 4. Still got 1 left, and that's all that's holding the engine on is this 1 bolt right here. Obviously, we don't want to take it all the way out yet. I just loosened it, and then once I set the engine back, or the snowblower back upright, I'm going to manually just use my right angle under there and real quick zap it off, and then we can pull the engine off. Almost missed this. There's one 10mm bolt on the shroud. It holds a ground wire. Don't want that to be in the way. Almost missed the plug on this side. It's got to come off. Again, now we're all free except for this 1 bolt here. I'm just using a 6-inch extension on my right angle. when I put it all back together, I'm going to do exactly that again, but backwards, of course. See how wet that bolt was there? Pretty wet. None of the other bolts were really soaked. Maybe this front one was wet a little bit. Wasn't completely soaked though. Now the engine is completely free. Take a look down here at the base one more time. You can see it's kind of hard with the light, I guess. I can't see it great, but you can see where it's all wet, both here and here. So it's leaking right there where that crankcase met the block. Let's drain the oil while we work on getting the front cover off. Use a 10 millimeter on the drain plug. For here, we're gonna have to pull off the idler pulley before we can get to the bolt that's holding that on. And to do that, that's a 3/8. Right here, we basically got the bolt and then a bushing, and then the bearing. This one looks in good shape. Otherwise, I'd replace it while we're here. And then this is either a half or a 13. I think it's actually a 13, but they are close enough. I don't really worry too much about it. Plate comes off. So we've got bolt. All this is held together. There's a bolt, a lock washer, a bushing. Then comes the piece here. Then you got a spring and a keeper that keeps all that together while you pull it off, which is great. Now we're to our crankcase. Perfect, perfect. The thing we've got to pay attention to is there is a bolt up here that holds the fill tube on. So what I'll do is I'm going to take it loose. So what I'll do is I'm going to take it loose. We're going to go forward and basically pull it up and out of the way. It's going to kind of stay in there, but you can take the dipstick out. And now we have enough room, we can pull it off without that being in the way. We got stuff kind of cleaned up a little bit as we waited. Let's tip this upside down so we can see all that oil right there where it meets. And again, it's not real fast, but it's all along the bottom. Very hard to diagnose sometimes when it's there. Almost looks a little bit wet right here too, which is strange. Either way, anytime we have the crankcase gasket off, we always replace the PTO seal. Just good habit to get into, no matter the piece of equipment. I wonder if some of that, when I had it tipped up or whatever, I think that might have actually came off of the dipstick tube. But anyway, that's 12 millimeter to take off that case. Take all the bolts out. Like there's one 10 millimeter one. I've got to get out of the way. I'm not sure that that's going to give me enough room. I might have to take this other one here off. Should leave me enough room to kind of tilt it up. It looks like some of the bolts out of the front of this carburetor are loose for some reason. It's kind of strange. I thought this thing actually ran fine when it came in. Just gonna grab a hammer and lightly tap. we go. What do we got here? Where's that bolt from? Huh. Somebody lost a bolt down in here. It's a mystery. Such are many things, small engine repair. Just trying to take my little bushing out on that side and pull it forward just a hair. Take this out, put it right back in. Got it all off. As we look, it almost looks like maybe it was ripped when it was installed. I don't know. Came off pretty clean at the bottom side. Just kind of got it tipped up. I'm going to scrape all this gasket material off. You want all that completely free, nothing else left on it, not all scratched up. If you're using a razor blade and it starts scratching anywhere, like right at the end it started scratching just a hair, you want to switch that razor blade out. The front crankshaft seal, you can just pry it out. You don't want to be all the way against the outside edge if you're going to do this, because you don't want to scratch that aluminum. So I just kind of grabbed at the lip about halfway through and just kind of pried it up. You can also hit it from the back side. Just a little hard to get the right angle. If yours was leaking here to begin with, you don't actually have to take this out. You can put a screw through and use a pick and just kind of pull it out. That's how I like to do it if it's still installed. We've got our replacement. We use OEM seals. Get just a little bit of the oil over here, kind of coat the outside and the inside. It's already got a little bit of grease on the inside anyway. Never a bad idea to coat the outside though. You can use a punch and lightly go around the outside, or you can find something that's the right size to drive it down in. It fits right at the outside, which this is. You just want it to go evenly. Hit it with the hammer if I need to, just lightly tap. Getting there just about perfect. I want it to kind of drive in evenly. See, this left side is going not quite as far as the right. So focus on that side now. Pushing it in even. You want it in there just past the lip and even all the way around. I don't think this side's quite as far down in as the other. Still just not quite there. I wonder if this is about the same size as the inside diameter, so it's kind of hard to push it anymore. But just under that lip and even all the way around, that's looking good. I am going to take the little spacer or guide and put it in the other side. That way I can line up my new gasket on there. That is this part number here. I'll put that down below too. See what we got. There we go. Perfect. And now we can reinstall. As we put the cover back on, the crankcase cover, you want to make sure that the seal fits down on there good. If it doesn't, you may have to kind of poke it in as you go. Line all this up, push it back some more. Slid on there pretty nice. Put this back in kind of at the same time, just push it down in there. If that O-ring looks like, or those O-rings look like they're not in good shape, you can replace those while you're here too. It should fit pretty snug as we slide it down. They want these bolts torqued down from 80 to 106 inch-pounds. I'm going to do that just perfectly with my impact. Good to go there. Put our 10mm bolts back here where we took them out of. Now we're going to bolt this back on. Right where it was. This has got to stay, the spring's got to stay on this side as we do it. You can use anti-seize on this if you want. I don't ever really see them seized, so I'm not too terribly worried about it. We'll line that other one up. I'm going to put just this random bolt, I think, over here and just kind of start it to hold my position while I tighten this up. Should be free to move, and it is. Idler pulley back on. Same thing there, should be free to move. Take this out, get it out of the way. Now we're ready to put this engine back on. We've got the engine back up on here. Basically, I'm going to start this front bolt from the bottom. I actually started the opposite side one towards the back. It's a little bit easier to get to without an extension. Get it just a little tighter than what it is. Now when we flip it forward, it'll be held on there so we can get everything else lined up. Let's get these two started. Just got to kind of move the engine until it's lined up. Two started. Get our bottom one. Still kind of at just a hair of an angle. You got to be careful when starting them. You don't want to cross thread anything. Kind of just trying to hold the engine at the right angle to get it started. Just kind of moving it around there. Not wanting to go. There we go. Now we've got the bottom one. Okay, and the engine's still at quite a bit of an angle. See if I can't use my socket and extension. Should be able to just tip it up. Finish getting it in the right spot. It's not quite long enough. I'm going to go with the longer extension. The longer extension to get back to this one. Got to kind of pull it forward again. There we go. Pull that back. Tighten them all down. While we're in here, there's really no reason not to clean up the drive drive wheel. The rubber disc just leaves its mark all over it and cause it to slip over time. Just using a wire brush, you can use carburetor cleaner or even gas, something to just kind of clean it off afterwards. Rubber layer around the outside. Now I'm going to go to high speed up on the speed selector and get it out of the way so I can get the inside. Now's a good time to inspect that drive wheel also, or the drive disc. If it's in bad shape, you've already got it this far. Might want to just replace it, especially if you're taking the engine and everything off and you got to order parts to weigh it or anything. All right, nice and clean. Make sure that's all on. It is. And we're going to put the cover back on before we flip this back up so we don't have to flip it again. We want to clean up the rest of everything in here as much as you can too. If it's completely oil soaked, you can power wash it and let it all dry out. You don't want it to be wet for long though. You don't want to, for say, like leave it overnight wet or it'll rust up. We'll put the cover back on. We'll just slide it in at the bottom and then just straight up till it locks in. Got to kind of push it forward to get it past and locked in. I'll try to get a little bit better picture of that. So we've got to basically, as it's coming up, kind of push these in and get past this bracket and underneath the rail there. And you want to line those up, line up our holes. And we were missing the other 2 screws at the bottom. Not sure why that is. Well, that one's stripped out. It is not really tight either, so let me go down here to this one, see if it's the same. That one tightened up. I'm not worried about a missing bolt at the bottom, really. There's no real reason to be worried about it, but I've got another one right here. See if it'll go in there and perfect. 3 out of 4 ain't too shabby. We might as well put our ground wire back on while we're right here. And then hook back up our wire up top for the headlight coming from the charging system. It only goes one way. Thought anyway. Yeah, it does. I had it right, it just wasn't wanting to go. That's good. And we've got our 2 pieces. The one here is the one that goes towards the front. So we're going to put this on first. We're basically going to line it up. And again, we've got to kind of pull our idler down out of the way. That's good. Then we can put the front one on. I'm going to put go ahead and put the belt on. While we're here, make sure it's around the pulley and around the idler. And that is good. We don't have any tension on it yet because we're going to have to put that spring up with that bolt next. We're doing this all first. I do like a little bit of anti-seize, even though those came off easily. You can put it behind that other one too, but it doesn't usually cause a problem on the tiny ones where they're barely against the shaft. It's usually this longer one. It's going to cause a problem. All right. And then that one stayed right where it was. We can put our belt here in. And this isn't timed or anything. It doesn't matter where it goes. It just slides right in. I'm going to make sure that the belt's not trapped in between before you tighten this down. You can also put a little anti-seize on here. They don't really seem to get stuck often, but you don't want that to happen. Still trying to figure out where that one bolt that was a mystery bolt came from. I'm wondering if it was one of the bolts here for some reason. For some reason we got it on there or what, but shouldn't be too hard to figure out as we're putting this all back together. If we do or we don't have an extra one. Oop, I think that, yeah, so that belt and back was getting a little smushed on there. I'm rolling it over just so we get it out, kind of out of the way. I think we didn't have it maybe all the way installed. You don't want your belts in the way, otherwise it's not going to be truly tight. Again, I think our back belt was kind of in the way when I originally tightened it down. It is free now though. Those are all good. And we do want to get the rest of this back on. So we're going to go Go ahead and put our chute on. Just how it should be. Right there. I always like to go directly to the middle with our joystick and line everything up directly to the middle. I'll show you that a little bit better up top. How exactly you do that. Got to kind of squeeze the trigger and rotate everything. It usually all snaps in pretty well. As we're going to put the chute back on, we just want to set it down on the base, and then we'll line up the notches in the front. And again, I originally had it straight up top here. That's where we want it still. And we'll line everything together right back in the same spot that it was. If it doesn't line up perfect here, so the chute's not straight, you'll need to pull the trigger and move it so it is. That just ensures that we can get right back to where we were in the beginning. Once we have all this lined up, we can go ahead and tighten it down. Just did that to kind of get it started. All right, there we go. And we're still straight everywhere. The handle's straight here. Everything's notched good. And now we'll tighten it down over here. So we've got it all in pretty good shape. We've got to line it all up, and we've got to get our keeper back down in this bottom one. You can do this in whatever order you'd like. I mean, you can get the top ones first, if that seems easier for you. Just line everything up here. Really, once you get one more started, the other two should kind of follow suit pretty quickly. Shouldn't be too far off. Yeah, they're not bad. I don't know that I can see that real good. So I've kind of got all of them started. I'm going to move to the other side to tighten everything up, I think. But I do want to get this tightened down. All right. Sorry, not exactly easy place to get in at. And when I come, basically got to move this spring here past the belt on the inside, kind of go over. I get my light here in a good spot too. Kind of got to go over and up and around. There we go. I don't know if that was even able to be seen, but that's where it should be. It should be on the top of here. And that gives you the spring if you pull it back. I might try to do that one more time for the camera. So we're down at the bottom. And come up and past where the bolt is. So up and past and on top of it. That's where she sits. You should get that good spring out of it. Well, I did start these two, but I started them without my keeper on there. So I'm going to have to take them back off. I just want the keeper like such. And these had Loctite in them. I'm not really sure why. I'm not going to put Loctite back in them. Should go just fine right into the block. Seal nice. I mean, they're long-winded threads too. say, I didn't think I got one of my broken batteries. I think my battery might have been dead, so I got it on the charger. I got the one that I kind of got to hold in. All right, there we go. The keeper shouldn't be hitting the pulley on either side, and the belt should be in and on both sides. That's all set. Now we just need the cover. And the cover's kind of difficult. You got to start with this side and kind of get it down in and then put up. That seemed extremely easy, but it isn't normally. It's normally quite a bit more difficult. Kind of glad it decided to give me something easy today. Everything else has fought me a little bit. Just got the 2 3/8 head bolts to go back in the cover. Now all we need is some oil in this thing, and we can fire it up. Usually takes right at 20 ounces of oil if it's been opened up. Check that. Right at it. I do have a couple bolts that I've got to tighten up. I've got to find another nut for the front of the carburetor. Again, I'm not sure. I would bet good money that this thing ran when it came in. I know it did because we ran it to check for leaks to begin with. So I'm not sure why all this stuff is loose. Couldn't find any nuts like that I had laying around with a quick search. Took that one off. And I've got 2 just regular metric nuts. Some of them come like this. Some of them come with those caps. Doesn't really matter. Either one works. Is this one? Well, that one is loose enough that I can turn it by hand. Spark plug wire back on. As I was just giving it one final check over, I realized what was missing and where this came from. Right on top of the exhaust, it holds so the cables don't get caught on anything. I was moving that, the chute back and forth, and it wasn't wanting to go to the left. Well, it was because the cables were in the way. Now everything works like it should, both directions. Yeah, perfect. Not exactly a real easy job to accomplish, but whether it's on one of these that has the joystick control, that's a little bit more difficult because it has all this attached. Whether it's on one of these or one of the more simpler models, hopefully this has helped you figure out how you need to get yours taken care of. Don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoyed the content. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.